Hey guys, how's it going out there? So today we're going to be talking about Telltale Games Studio, which Telltale Games has had a pretty interesting last few years. They shut down originally back in 2018, and it's interesting because when they shut down, they were in the middle of making the final season of The Walking Dead. And I remember I was playing the final season at that time, and they had gotten to the second episode that got released. And then they shut down in the middle of making the last two episodes. And so for a few months, there was a kind of a back and forth between whether the final season would actually get released because Telltale wasn't operating anymore, but the game was half complete. And I think it was Skybound that came in and actually helped get the game finished because they came in, I think, after a few months, and then I think there was a few other outside parties that helped get the game finished. And so they were able to actually get the final season completed and get the game out there. And then Telltale went out of business after that. And for, I think it was like a few years, about 2 to 3 years, Telltale was just dead. And then they were brought back, I guess about 3 years ago now. And then they made The Expanse, which I didn't play the game, and it doesn't seem like it was a bad game, but it seems like it was a pretty forgettable game. I haven't heard anyone talking about it. Like even diehard Telltale fans. It seems like even diehard Telltale fans didn't even really play it or were really interested in it. And it seems like Telltale kind of themselves weren't really overly keen on the game because I don't remember them really promoting it that much. I don't remember them really talking about it online or doing a lot of advertising for it. And so then that led them into what has been their most highly anticipated game, which is Wolf Among Us 2. And the Wolf Among Us 2 is a game that has been a heavily requested game from Telltale since the first game came out, which at this point's been like 13, 12 years, which is it's actually fucking wild that it's been that long since the first Wolf Among Us came out, and there has been absolutely nothing since then when it comes to Wolf Among Us. And then now here we are in May of 2025, and Telltale has essentially been a completely radio silent company for the last few years. That I'm aware of, and I've tried to check this year. I've looked on their Instagram, I've looked on their Facebook, I've looked on their main website. There has been an astounding lack of any type of information or news about anything regarding the company, regarding Wolf Among Us, about an update, nothing. Like they have posted pretty much nothing. The last announcement I can even find that was talking about the Wolf Among Us 2 and like what was going on with it was last year in like October. So it's been like pretty much a year at this point. Like I mean, since it's a new year and it's been since the fall last year, I mean, it's been a good minute since we've gotten any actual news about The Wolf Among Us 2. And so it's kind of got me, it kind of got me wondering about the fact of whether this company is actually still functional. Because I remember they laid off the majority of their workforce about 2 years ago. And right around that time, they also lost some partnerships which were helping with developing the game and I guess like funding. So they lost their sponsorships or they lost their partnerships and then they laid off most of their staff. And then since then, there's been nothing. Like they haven't really said anything about this game. It hasn't been shown at a festival. It hasn't been shown at any gaming event. They haven't even posted like a blog or anything. It's been completely radio silent. And it's gotten to the point where people who are even into the game have just said, fuck it, I'm just done. Like, I'm done waiting for anything and hearing nothing. And that's been kind of the frustrating part about Telltale is just the lack of communication. Like, they haven't, talked about anything. They haven't even come out at the very least just said, like, hey, we're working on the game, but we've had a few setbacks and it's going to be a few years or we don't know when it's going to come out, so it's indefinitely delayed. I mean, I think people would be more happy with that than just having completely silent, completely silence to anything. And at this point, I think that the company is more or less dead because I just can't see with pretty much next to no staff. I can't imagine they have a lot of money with pretty much no funds, and they're also making Wolf Among Us 2 an Unreal Engine, which is something that's new for Telltale because before they went out of business, and I think even for The Expanse, I think that they were using the Telltale tool, which was their in-house software. And so I think they were, for the first time, actually experimenting with Unreal Engine. So they're making a game and a software that they are not experienced or familiar with. They have not next to no staff to actually work on a game. They don't have any actual like partnerships anymore to actually help with writing and development because I can't remember the studios, but there were some studios and some outside parties that were like helping with the writing and the development of the game. And for whatever reason, I don't know exactly what the case was, but those relationships have dissolved. And at this point, Telltale just is kind of there. Like, they don't have anything else coming out. Like, the only game they have is The Wolf Among Us 2. And there's been nothing about that. They haven't talked about it all. As a matter of fact, they haven't even made an announcement as far as like, hey, Wolf Among Us 2 is still coming. Because I thought that at least in the last 5 months that they would have posted something. And as far as I can see, I've checked their Instagram, I've checked Facebook, I've checked their Twitter. They have just they've posted nothing. It has been an astounding lack of anything. And so I honestly think that it's just more likely that they have just went out of business or that they are going to be going out of business and they're going to announce the cancellation of Wolf Among Us 2, which it's unfortunate because the Wolf Among Us 2, it's been a highly, desired game from Telltale since the first game, which came out 12, 13 years ago, which it's kind of fucking crazy to think it's been about that long since the first game came out because it doesn't seem like it. Because I remember when that game came out and playing it, and it's a fantastic game. I'm biased because my whole time playing Telltale games, they have been my favorite when it comes to the Walking Dead games. Those are my favorite Telltale games. I like Tales from the Borderlands. I like their Batman series. Like Wolf Among Us, but for me, as long as I've been playing Telltale games, the Walking Dead games, especially Season 1, and most people aren't as big of a fan of Season 2. A lot of people actually hate that season. I love it. I think I'm in the minority there of actually liking Season 2. But nonetheless, Wolf Among Us 2 is a game that has been highly anticipated from Telltale, and every time that they've tried to get around to doing it, something's come up. Like, I remember before they went out of business in 2018, they were actually planning on making Wolf Among Us after the final season, so that was going to be the next game. Then they went out of business, and, obviously the game was no longer in production. Then they came back, and then they made The Expanse, and then they went straight from The Expanse into Wolf Among Us 2, and here we are again, like deja fucking vu, where the game is pretty much in limbo and more than likely going to get canceled. And honestly, I don't see Telltale coming back again if they do go out of business again. Because really, Telltale as a company, there really isn't much value in it. Their main property that they're known for is The Walking Dead. And really, at this point, The Walking Dead has run its course. And also, the whole zombie hype is just way gone now. Like, that was more of a 2010s thing. And nowadays, especially with people not being interested in the show and the comics and Clementine's story being over, there really isn't any interest in The Walking Dead anymore. And I don't even know where they would go with that series at this point. So there isn't much as far as, like, IPs that they have that are worth any money to, like, actually try to keep making. And outside of that, the company, ever since the first game, the first Walking Dead game, ever since then, Telltale really never got back to that level. Like, and I didn't even know this for a while, but after they made the first Walking Dead game, which was, their obvious, that was their magnum opus. Still is to me, as far as I'm concerned. And that's what put them on the map as Telltale Games. And after that, they just never got back to that point. Like, they had games that performed okay, but their sales were not really actually generating more than they should. They were just kind of at best doing okay, breaking even, or actually losing money. So the studio never was making money really after season one. And also with Wolf Among Us 2, it's been so long now that people who are even into the game now like want to play the game. They just said, you know what, fuck it, this game's not coming out. So that's also hurt the game, and also Telltale is that since they've not communicated anything, people are just they don't care. They've just lost interest. They're like, I'm done waiting for this game because people have been waiting for Wolf Among Us 2 for 13 years now, and it's always been a back and forth of okay, they're gonna make it and they're not gonna make it. You know, company went out of business, so they can't make it. Like something's always coming up to where this game just cannot actually get made and released. And at this point, I mean, I've seen people where they're like, you know what, I'm just done. You know, like if it comes out, I'll play it. I hope it does, but I'm just done waiting for it. And so I think that that's something else too. Is like if they, on the very rare chance, actually make this game and actually release it, I don't even know how well received it will be. Not because the game would be bad, but just because people are just not interested. And Telltale just has not been really a very advertised company. I mean, most people still think that Telltale is dead. Like, I know there are a lot of people that didn't even know Telltale is currently a company that came back. Like, a lot of people still think it's a closed company. And The Expanse, you know, like, it wasn't a bad game. I mean, I never played it, but I don't think that they should have spent their time making that game. I felt like that was just a waste of time, and that they should have been working on The Wolf Among Us 2 from the moment they came back. Like, that should have been the game that they were 100% in on. Like, they should have been completely on board with getting Wolf Among Us 2. And I feel like if they had went straight into making that game and then releasing it, I think they would be in a far better place right now. And I think that they made a big mistake making The Expanse. And I don't know if making that game was part of like an agreement with one of the parties that, you know, partnered with Telltale. I'm not sure if they're obligated in some way or they just felt they needed to have something out there before Wolf Among Us, but I think they should have waited until they were close enough in the development that they could release that game. And then after they released Wolf Among Us, they could release The Expanse. But as it stands now, I don't know. I don't see Telltale actually being around by the end of this year. And also, from some of the reviews and some of the reports from people who worked there who got laid off the last few years, it seems like they still have the same fucked structure that they had, you know, before. You know, it sounds like the management is still shit, the organization is still poor, the process of developing the games are still completely abysmal. So it seems like they have the same culture that caused them to die off years ago is still there in place now. And now they have next to no staff. They have no, you know, they have no sponsors. They have no partnerships. They have, I mean, I think Skybound is still working with them, but pretty much they have nobody. Like, they have no support. They have no workers. They have no games. And they're just kind of fucked, I think. Like, I mean, because I don't think The Expanse made a lot of money, and I don't know how much money Telltale has, and that's another thing is how far into development is Wolf Among Us 2? I mean, is this game even far into development? Because I don't even know if before they laid off the majority of their workforce and before their partnerships fell apart, I don't even know if the game was that far into development, because I think some of those partnerships or those companies and third parties were actually helping with the writing and the development of the game. And so if they left and then if they laid off most of their workforce, all of that could have been scrapped, and now they have to make a completely new game in a software that they are not used to. So that if that's the case, I mean, the game's just not coming out. I do not see them being able to make this game from scratch on a skeleton crew with pretty much next to no money and making a full season. I mean, at the least, they might be able to make an episode, but I don't see them being able to make a fully well-fleshed out season that's actually of any good quality on the crew they got now. So yeah, that's those are my thoughts on Telltale as it is now, because I have a special place for Telltale. will always love their games. I love the Walking Dead games. I love the Borderlands games. I love most of their games, and the company has made some pretty good games over the years. And it's unfortunate that they're in the position they're in now, but realistically, I just think that the company's dead at this point, unofficially. And I think that we're probably never going to get Wolf Among Us 2 because I know that Telltale doesn't own the rights to Wolf Among Us because it's from the Fable comics. I can't remember who actually owns the Wolf Among Us the Fable comics. But I really don't see another company being able to actually make a Wolf Among Us 2 like Telltale could and would be able to. And so yeah, those are my thoughts on Telltale. Let me know what you think. Let me know if you think that Telltale's actually no longer around or if you think they're going to pull it out. But until next time, I will see you guys later and take it easy until then.